Let's get it Star Wars. Let's get it Star Wars in here. Let's get it Star Wars. Let's get it Star Wars in here.
A small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio,
your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
I tell you, it's amazing times right now to be a Star Wars fan. When you think about it, we're just getting into the swing of the Bad Batch, and then all of a sudden we got the trailer for Mando Season 3. It's going to be here in just a few weeks. It's crazy. We're going to have 2 Star Wars television shows on simultaneously. It's going to be a challenge. We're up for it. I hope you all are up for it. And speaking of that trailer, we are, of course, going to do a shot-by-shot look, as you're accustomed to here on Rebel Force Radio. We will be reviewing that trailer and taking a look and seeing what we can find. There's always so much to see packed into every shot, little Easter eggs and things like that. So that'll be fun to catch up on. Also, speaking of catch up in Bad Batch, if you watched the Bad Batch after show, and I'm hoping that you did, you might have heard Jimmy Mack make mention of he had a flashback of a scene in a 1980s movie, maybe by Steven Spielberg. He narrowed it down to a couple, where there's a girl on screen. This is what he remembers: a girl on screen holding on or with a Star Wars action figure in her mouth. And he's like, I think it's E.T. I think it was E.T. Well, mystery solved. We'll have the results of that little investigation here in just a few moments, and so much more. Welcome again, as I said, to Rebel Force Radio. We're at the towards the end of January 2023. The year is going by, and it's just every time we turn around, there's something new to be excited about as a Star Wars fan. And I know one guy that's always excited to be a Star Wars fan, and that is, of course, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Glad to be back again for another week of Rebel Force Radio. And what a week it is with a new Mandalorian trailer dropping and hearing you talk about what's in store for us starting in March with 2 Star Wars shows dropping each week. Man, it got my head thinking, when was a time that had so much profound content being dumped on us from different sides? And I think back to December 2019 when The Mandalorian Season 1 was underway, and then we got hit with Star Wars Episode 9. So there was a lot of Star Wars happening then, and now it's going to be happening every week coming up in March with the double dose Mandalorian and Bad Batch coming at us every week. Double dose of Star Wars. So that's a lot to look forward to. But last night on the after show, it happened at the very end. I couldn't help myself. I was so excited to see the return of Kenner Walrus Man in the Bad Batch. Just walking around the streets of Ord Mantell. Yeah, that's where he is. That's where Walrus Man lives. And I was so excited to see him. I had the action figure here with me in the studio, and I still do. And Jason put a screen grab of me at the end of the show last night, and I had Walrus Man clenched in my teeth by his feet.
Chomping on it like a cigar. I go, what are you doing? What is this? I said, you smoke your Star Wars action figures? So you eat, breathe, sleep, and smoke Star Wars?
Not quite.
But it triggered a memory.
It was kind of a tribute, I felt, to young Gertie from E.T., played by Drew Barrymore, who I was convinced in that moment, I was flashing back to E.T., and I was convinced that that's where an image was in my head of a young girl laying in bed with an action figure in her mouth, like this. And, just goofing, right?
Right.
And, when we're kids, we put everything in our mouths. What are you talking about? So Freud had something to say about all that. I don't pay any attention to it. I just know that sometimes it's nice to put a Star Wars action figure in your mouth.
Sometimes a Star Wars figure is just a Star Wars figure, right? Just like Groucho Marx said to Freud, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Or was that Freud that said that? But you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Don't read anything into it.
Exactly. So I had this thought, and then all of a sudden I had a moment of clarity. Wait a second. It's a different movie from that same era that Steven Spielberg had fingerprints all over. Not E.T., but Poltergeist. Yes, Poltergeist. And so that led me down the rabbit hole this morning because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see that scene. Poltergeist isn't the easiest thing to stream. It's not like, part of the regular rotation on any of the main streamers. You have to rent it. But we had there you go. There's young Carrie Ann, played by Heather O'Rourke. We had a DVD in our house, so I was able to go through it today. And I pulled some screen grabs, and I put it together into a little slideshow because what I discovered was that there was way more than just young Carrie Ann with the vintage Luke Skywalker in her mouth. It wasn't Walrus Man, it was Luke Skywalker. But that was like an indelible image that burned into my mind. So I got this slideshow here of Poltergeist because there's more than just the vintage Luke Skywalker. There's Star Wars stuff all over this kid's room. So I put together a little slideshow. You can watch it on YouTube or if you have RFR All Access on Patreon, you get full show video. But we'll snip this little part out and put it on YouTube. So here is Star Wars in Poltergeist, as told through memorabilia primarily. So go ahead and fire that off, Jason. Here we go. There's the picture that started it off, young Carrie Ann with the Luke figure in her mouth. Oh, by the way, these screen grabs I was able to tweak and remove shadows, and so you can see things much clearer here in this little presentation I have. But there she is, just having the time of her life with that Luke figure. It looks like her doll is beheaded right next to her, too. Okay, there's the mom, and behind her you see the vintage Kenner Darth Vader Star Wars action figure case with red eyes.
I don't remember the eyes on that case being so red.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, they weren't, because the production crew painted those eyes in to make it pop more in the background. They feared it just looked like a big black blob in the background.
Right.
Also on the wall, you see the Star Wars movie poster and some vintage Kenner action figures there on the shelf. What appears to be a Tauntaun and a few others. So, and there's a Jeffrey, the giraffe in the background too. So the accuracy of a kid's room from this era is perfectly represented in Poltergeist.
Oh, you got Darth Vader right next to the football helmet. Is that a Rams football helmet?
Rams, yeah. Then they were the L.A. Rams. Oh, you see on the shelf there's a plastic Tauntaun, an FX7, and a Han Hoth, Empire Strikes Back, vintage Kenner figures. The kid has Star Wars bed sheets. There you see on the left on his nightstand.
Yoda.
It's the Yoda puppet from Kenner. It was like this hard rubbery puppet.
It's like a training thing. Yeah.
He's looking out at the Tree of Evil, but you see on the windowsill, he has the turret and Probot playset from Kenner, along with the vintage TIE Fighter. And there on the wall is the Factors Incorporated Darth Vader poster that was everywhere. The Disco Darth, we called it. And it was
What was so disco about that? What was...
I think it was like there's kind of fog machine effects going on there.
Oh, okay.
And
I mean, definitely very 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, the mirrored ball is just right off frame there. You can see that. But I always enjoyed that poster. I felt Vader looked super intimidating there, and I had that poster myself. It was super popular. So that's hanging in the kids' room, along with a vintage Kenner switcheroo, a C-3PO switcheroo. These were little plates of plastic you would put over your light switch, and it resembled the
I never heard of those.
C-3PO.
I never heard of those before.
You're kidding me.
No, I never heard of that switcheroo. That's cool. And Kenner did those, huh?
Kenner did them. If I remember correctly, there was a 3PO, a Vader, and an
I'd like
R2.
to have those now.
And so there's a little lever there right above his mouth, like right around his nose, and that you would flip that up to turn the light on and off. Yeah, you just put that right over your light switch on the wall and screwed it to the wall. And
love stuff like that.
They were popular. They were popular.
That's a mystery because it seems like that's something that they didn't continue to make throughout the subsequent movies. That might have been just a late 70s only thing.
Yeah. Probably circa 79, circa 80, something like that.
They're here. Rebel Force Radio on the screen as little Carol Ann is holding her hands up to it.
Yeah. Heather O'Rourke, she died very young.
Yeah,
she was a button in Poltergeist.
Yeah. Very sad.
But
cool.
Lots of, the Spielberg touch, obviously. Steven, didn't he and George famously trade points on their movies?
Yes, they did. They did.
So, Steven will find any opportunity he can at this time to promote the Star Wars film. He had Star Wars in E.T., he had Star Wars in Poltergeist. He wants to keep those points paying off that he got from George.
And Jim, you weren't wrong. I mean, here is a still from E.T. with young Elliot holding up a vintage Greedo and Hammerhead action figure.
Oh my God.
And I believe, it's been a while since I saw the movie, but I think he shows E.T. Boba Fett. And I think he makes Boba Fett levitate or something. Wow. I'm having a memory of that. So maybe we should look into that one. But yeah, I found this still. Greedo. He's got the weapons too for both of them.
Yeah. Well, those were contemporary toys back in the day, and I'm still not. I'm not that precious about them. I'll put a Luke Skywalker in my mouth. I don't care.
Wait a minute, is that a double telescoping saber, Luke?
Let me tell you something about this Luke Skywalker. This is the same action figure I had since I was a kid, purchased in 1978. This thing is in beautiful shape. I was just looking at it today. Look at this lightsaber. It's
that's amazing that the tip is still on
perfect condition. I mean, it's just absolutely perfect. Yeah,
that's very cool.
I took care of my Star Wars stuff when I was a kid, I really did. And it's paying off. I did think when I bought this in 1978 at the Toys R Us that it would be appearing on a camera during a show that's watched by people worldwide.
The face is still in good shape.
Yeah. My dog didn't get this one.
Yeah.
That's
wow.
for
It's
sure.
always
But
great to have your childhood originals.
Those vinyl cases were a godsend, at least, for my collection, because the figures were stored in those cases for decades, and that just kept them in such perfect condition.
Yeah.
So Star Wars and Poltergeist, that's a lot of fun. It was fun to revisit that film. I hadn't looked at it in quite a while, and it was our conversation last night, just that reference I made. It really sent me down the rabbit hole this morning. And I reconnected with Poltergeist. I ended up watching the whole thing, and I hadn't seen it in such a long time. Same thing with E.T. I'll date myself. I haven't seen E.T. since that thing was in the theaters.
Yeah, we're going back to 83. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. I played the Atari video game on the 2600 more recently than I've actually seen the film.
The infamous E.T. video game.
Yeah. We got it for Christmas that year, me and Billy Mac. It sucked.
Yeah.
It really did. Billy probably enjoyed it.
Sucked for back then. I mean, I think the legend is that isn't there like a landfill somewhere out in the desert just full of those?
No, there's a documentary about it.
Yeah.
They went out there and dug up E.T. cartridges.
They found them.
Yeah, buried 40 years ago. They went out there, dug them up. Yeah, it's a documentary.
I got to check
Google
that
it.
out.
Check it out.
I
Yeah.
will check it out. All right. Well, let's check out a little bit of listener feedback. See what's on your mind out there.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message, Optimus, the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Jimmy. This is Nick. Been listening to the show. Nick Savola. Been listening to the show for years. Just subscribed on Patreon, so I'm excited about all the new content. I wanted to call in. You guys have brought up this idea with the Bad Batch about the stun blasts and why they're using them and what it means, and is it Disney, trying to Disneyfy the show or whatever. And my 2 cents on it, I haven't gone back and rewatched the episodes and, dug deep on this, so this is surface level kind of feedback. But my take on it is that they still are seeing the clones really as brothers. Brothers that are maybe misguided or misinformed, maybe still programmed. I'm not sure that the Bad Batch really gets, and neither do we, right? We've been talking about it. You guys have been talking about it on the show, the full impact of the chips and what it does to the clones today and whatnot. But I think that's all it is that they don't want to take any of the clones' lives if they can avoid it. I know this is not a foolproof theory because there were situations in, I think it was episode 2 of this season, where they were, shooting clones down, and obviously they probably killed some along the way. I think it was Wrecker with his rocket launcher or whatever it was. But I think that's what it is. I think that's why in this past episode we were seeing real blaster bolts because, that was just Imperial clones against droids, and it doesn't apply to this situation. I know the stun bolts are annoying, the sounds and all that, but I really think it is a story point. Totally agreed that it would be great if they explicitly said that somewhere, but that's my take on it. And just wanted to throw that into the conversation. Appreciate all that you guys do, and I'm looking forward to next week.
All right. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. I don't have a problem with it because I actually think that it adds something interesting to their characters and, their morality, their ethics. It would be a great, I think, point. And, it would be also interesting if the opposition knew about that and knew that and saw it as a sign of weakness and they could exploit it or, something along those lines. So I just wish that there was more on-screen or, Jim, in-story clarification about it instead of just... Yeah.
Well, that, of course, is the foundation of our frustrations with it, is that there is no basis in the story for why it happened. It was like suddenly a switch was flipped mid-season last year. And so I get it, man. They don't want to kill their brothers. Okay. But it's a maybe. Maybe they don't want to kill their brothers.
Right.
We don't know. There has been no explicit dialogue about that. There's been no evolution of the story to indicate that. And Jason, you bring up a great point. Hey, let's let the enemies see that and consider it a weakness. Work it into the story somehow. Don't just flip a switch and make us think it's just because. Maybe, maybe, maybe. I'm tired of maybes in Star Wars. Maybes, when maybes come to storytelling, that makes me lose confidence in the storyteller. I don't want maybe. I want solid storytelling.
Commit, right? Commit.
Right. And so how hard would it be? I would not fault it if that was the reason. And that's the rationale we used. They don't want to kill their brothers.
Right.
But then you have Wrecker pull out a shoulder-hoisted rocket launcher, and he takes out about 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And they jump into their ship and they fly away.
Right.
It's like, and yeah, that sound effect is annoying. It was effective when we heard it once in A New Hope, just so we had clarification that it wasn't a lethal blast that took down Princess Leia on the Rebel blockade runner. It was a stun blast. So it looked and sounded different. But that was just a one-and-done situation. To have those blue donuts flying around during a battle and that pew, 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 pew. I mean, it gets to be a little annoying and sort of removes the awesomeness of the whole sound design and intensity of the battle itself.
Pachoo, pachoo.
Thanks a lot, Nick, for calling in. And if you have something you want to say and you want to hear yourself on Rebel Force Radio, leave us a voicemail, 708-320-1737. That's 708-320-1RFR.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news.
Come closer, I have good news.
Yeah, it was Mando night football this week.
Yeah.
Halftime on ABC, the Mandalorian Season 3 trailer debuted. This is the official trailer. What we saw before were, I guess, branded teasers or first looks or whatever it was, but this was the official trailer for Mandalorian Season 3. And so, as we have done many times with many trailers, we thought we would go ahead and throw it up here on the screen and go through it scene by scene, shot by shot. Slowly I turned, inch by inch.
That might have been Tom Brady's last game ever.
Well, that was something else. That was, you just couldn't believe you were looking at the same guy. It was...
it's they just the teams are better. But that doesn't matter here. What matters is that I was able to gather the family around the TV and we all watched it in real time. And there was something exciting about that. Sure, it dropped online instantly after it debuted on Monday Night Football, but to be watching it and have the announcers tease it was coming, it's coming up, the Mandalorian. It's like, here it is. That just adds to the excitement and really takes away the sterile quality of seeing it launch on like StarWars.com or YouTube or someplace. It's just really great to be there in the moment and know that it's an event and you're seeing it in real time for the first time with thousands, if not millions of other people. So
yeah,
definitely millions.
I love the
people.
big broadcast premiere. I love that.
That's so fun. That is so fun. So let's take a look at this ballyhooed trailer, and then we'll discuss. Maybe we can freeze it here.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it frozen here.
So here we are. We're starting off with a wide shot, looking at a bunch of individuals hiking on the horizon there. It looks like sort of a mountainous, rangy area, almost desert-like. Could be one of two places, I'm guessing. We're looking at the planet Navarro, where Grief Karga hangs, and we'll see much more action going down on the planet Navarro as this trailer unfolds. Or it could be another planet that was referenced in the Book of Boba Fett by the Armorer, when she says they survived the purge by hiding out on the planet Concordia. I was like, maybe it's Concordia, or maybe it's Mandalore. Maybe they're actually on the planet Mandalore, but wherever they are, it looks like some kind of wasteland, So maybe it is Mandalore as well, because we know Mandalore was wiped out. But it looks like maybe,
and I don't think we've seen these Mandos before.
No.
Yeah.
It's a group of Mandos. It's like a Mando gathering. You have a red Mando, a blue Mando, a white and green Mando. This is just, a wet dream for Hasbro, really. I mean, this is what the CEO of Hasbro dreams about.
Hey,
what
can
we're
we use
seeing
the
here in
same
this
buck
trailer.
on all of those? That's great. We can use the same. We just got to paint them up a little bit different, and we got one mold and we got 20 different characters right there. It's great. I heard that the different colors. I know this is expanded universe stuff, but I had heard that the different color helmets mean different things. Like you see these some white-faced troopers or Mandos, and apparently they're almost zealots in their hatred of the Empire, all things Empire. And the white helmet means they want a fresh start. And if you have a red helmet, that means something. If you have a green helmet, that means something else. So I don't know if they'll pick up
If
on
you
that.
have horns on your helmet, you're a Mandalorian.
Yes.
That's what makes me wonder about the armorer. She has those little nubby horns on top of her head. Was she a former Mandalorian? I hope these are questions that get answered.
Yeah.
What are we?
But I like what you're saying, Jason, about these the army. There's an
There's
orange
the
one.
white-faced ones. Yeah. Yeah.
So they have the Bo-Katan. Or do you say Katan?
I say Catan. I'm a Midwest guy. I say Catan.
Yeah. That's how we say it, Chicago, Katan. So we're looking at a shot from the trailer here that features 2 Mandalorian females, I'm assuming, because it's typically the females who have that visor that looks like Bo-Katan's.
Right.
Yes.
Where the top of the T is kind of bent down. So it kind of has sort of a down brow sort of look where it's the other's straight across on the T.
Right on. So, yeah, very different looking. And there's 2 of them there with the white helmets like you were talking about, Jason.
Yeah.
That's news to me. That's Mandalorian news to me. The white helmets signify some sort of resistance to the Empire or something along those lines. And then a really cool orange helmeted Mandalorian standing there in front of Din Djarin, who's emerging from what looks like a cave. And so this has a lot of thoughts racing through my head. Because we know that season 2 ended with Din with the Darksaber, and now he has been challenged for the Darksaber by that big Mandalorian that hangs out with the armor. That's voiced by Jon Favreau.
Oh, Vizsla.
Vizsla. Is he Paz Vizsla?
Paz Vizsla.
Is that his name?
Absolutely right.
Paz.
Yes.
Paz.
Pause.
His brother was Pez, who went on to have an incredible career in the candy and confectionery industry. Pez Vizsla. So Pez and Paz and Din, he has the Darksaber. So he's now used it in battle. It seems like he's becoming more comfortable being the owner of the Darksaber. And so this is something I've been wondering since the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian is does his ownership of the Darksaber immediately put him in a place of leadership for Mandalorian survivors? Is he going to use this as a clout device? Is he going to be gathering up other Mandalorians? And from the way this trailer is immediately reintroducing us to Din Djarin, we're seeing him surrounded by other Mandalorians. It looks like he's coming out like they were standing guard for him. So I think he is starting to recruit, and the dialogue says something about our kind are scattered all over the galaxy.
Yeah, he says, our people are scattered like stars in the galaxy. What are we?
Yes.
What do we stand for?
Right. So he wants, I guess he's looking for some Mando camaraderie here with these other, building his own tribe and still adhering to the way. Maybe trying to win back the favor of the armor.
See, that's what I think. I think he's going to have, now that he's got Grogu. By the way, I just have to bring this up. A good friend of mine who did not watch Book of Boba Fett, but has watched Mandalorian pretty religiously. He texted me after the trailer aired, and he said, how is Baby Yoda back with Mando?
Oh, boy. Here come the questions. Well...
And
you
I
snooze,
said,
you lose, pal.
yeah, that's right. I said, dude, it's only 2 episodes. Just watch them. I'll give you the episode numbers. You got Disney Plus. Watch them. It'll explain it all.
No. He has to earn those. He has to earn those. He has to sit through the first 4 episodes of Book of Boba Fett before he gets to drink the sweet nectar of Mando's return in those final episodes. No. You can't just waltz in there
no shortcuts.
like you own the place and sit there. No. You got to see some. back to tank. You have to go through all the stuff we went through. You got to see some Vespa chases through the town of Mos Espa. You have to deal with David Pasquazi as the Major Domo with his flourishes.
Oh, yeah.
All of his flourishing that he does when I've never seen a character on screen flourish more than
Hold
this
on,
cat
you weren't
does.
on camera. I want to see everybody that was watching the video. I want to see. Here's Mac doing his flourishes. It's very Luthen, too. You know, there's a lot of flourishes.
He's a lot of flourishing. Oh, no. Luthen can hold a candle to what the Major Domo does in the flourishing department. He's the king of all flourishing. And so you have to, you can't just go and watch these episodes, you know.
You have to earn it.
You have to earn it. That's right. You know, shellfish is delicious. But you got to get through that shell, man, before you start feasting away. So that's what I'm going to tell people. And yeah, if you're confused by the trailer for The Mandalorian, I know people listening to this show are not, because you stay up on Star Wars.
Right.
You know, you watch
That's
the
what I
episodes
should
when
have
you
told
drop.
him. Dude, I should have said, well, you're not listening to Rebel Force Radio. What are you doing?
Yeah. We got after shows you got to get on board with, all kind of stuff. So, I mean, come on now.
I should tell him,
You
look,
snooze,
you got
lose.
weeks of studying up before you are going to be able to figure that all out. You got to watch all the episodes. You got to listen to the after shows. Take a test.
All the stuff. Yeah. We're charging admission too. It's just because, you know, I mean, it's not admission really, it's tuition for Star Wars University. So let's get back to the Mando trailer and quit worrying about the people who can't keep up.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to skip ahead. All right, Lucasfilm logo, and then that's what I wanted to do is freeze frame on that beautiful Naboo starfighter. What a sweet looking ride that is for Mando. I got to tell you, I was a little skeptical because I was a big fan of his ship, the Razor Crest. Yeah, I was a big fan, but this is cool. What is that on the back? Can we see is that I can't tell if that's a droid in there or if it's Baby Yoda. You know, I think it's Baby Yoda. It's very blurry, but I think it's Baby Yoda. It
looks like it's the glass dome.
Yeah.
We'll notice as the trailer goes along that there actually is a droid that gets placed into that socket.
But for now, it's Baby Yoda.
Yes, and you can see that. What a trip it must be going through hyperspace in that little domed. You know, God, I know a lot of music fans that would love to be sitting in there listening to some Pink Floyd as that flies by.
This is right there. That's the look.
That's what I would do.
That's the look on your face too, right there.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, that would be me. That's me in the Star Wars universe. Just give me some earbuds and a ship that can make the jump to light speed, and I'll be just fine.
That's the next ride I want at Galaxy's Edge is put me in the bubble and make me feel like I'm going through hyperspace.
Put me in the bubble.
They can call it the hyperspace bubble.
You come right out of the cantina going to the bubble.
Oh, God.
Sorry, sir, we have to clean up the bubble. So here are some clips we've seen before a few times now. What appears to be a sleeping or knocked out cold Din Djarin holding Baby Yoda on his lap as the ship is flying through hyperspace.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's some voiceover, so I don't. But you never know the way they cut these trailers, whether the voiceover is from the scene they're seeing. Oh, you know what though? Wait a minute. There's movement. Hold on. He does see. He moves his hand.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of.
Okay.
But I think he could
does.
be napping. You're right. He could be napping.
Yeah. It looks like he's trying to fade away. You know.
Yeah.
And with the little
cuddle
Yoda
time.
in the lap.
Look at that. He puts his little head back. Oh,
yeah, he does.
How cute is that?
It's precious.
Nap time.
Reminds me of my dog. He does. He really does.
Yeah, they come in for a landing. This looks like Navarro, right?
This is Navarro.
Yeah.
Now, I think immediately I thought it was Naboo, just because of the domes. You see the domes, but it's not. It totally is not Naboo. This is a return to Navarro, where Grief Karga is the magistrate, and Navarro has grown and prospered since they left after the raid on that Imperial base. They meaning the Empire. From what I believe, Navarro is void of any sort of Imperial presence. After that raid on their base with the Mythrol, I think the Empire got out of there, and they took their little cloning tubes with them. And so there's been a lot of urban development on the planet Navarro under the watchful eye of Grief Karga.
Yeah, looks like this is like a little street market here. And I believe that's a protocol droid, a white protocol droid in the background.
Oh, yeah, like the one we see on Hoth in Echo Base.
And you know what's, is it me or see these pillars here on either side?
Yeah.
Don't they kind of remind you of R2's leg?
Oh, yeah.
With the blue marks.
Yeah. Their architecture is a tribute to R2-D2. That's why there's the domes.
Right. Yeah.
Another tribute.
It's the astromech planet.
Yeah. And you have a white protocol droid in the street just acting frantically. He's like, I should not be here.
He can't handle it. Kawaki and Monkey Lizard, they're always fun. They are always fun.
I wonder if that guy's in a relation. If he's a Crumb, is what I'm wondering.
You know, he
actually looks a lot like
yes. The coloring is there. The little kind of reddish brown tuft of hair. I'd recognize that signature Crumb look anywhere.
But I mean, really, don't we believe that Salacious B. Crumb perished when the sail barge was destroyed at the Carcoon Pit?
Well, he got his butt burned by R2.
Yeah, maybe he got out of there. You know, like maybe he's like, I'm out of here.
Well, you know, I always wondered, as I got older, like when I was a little kid, I thought he was trying to eat 3PO's eyeballs, or his ocular sockets or whatever they are. And now I'm wondering, as I'm older, I'm like, what was he doing? Was he just trying to be a jerk with 3PO plucking his eyes?
Just messing with him.
How did that little thing get 3PO down and start pulling his eyes out? Jeez,
maybe 3PO was knocked down.
That could be.
And couldn't get up. He's like a turtle in his shell when he falls down. He really can't get up. I know that's true in real life with Anthony Daniels inside that costume.
Oh, I bet.
He couldn't sit. Anytime you see 3PO sitting, that's CGI. Because Anthony Daniels could never sit in that costume. And there's pictures of him out in the Tunisia desert, resting between sets, laying back on a plank because he couldn't sit down. That was a tough gig.
I have a memory. I don't want to go down a rabbit trail, but I have a memory because I used to have the Empire Strikes Back storybook.
Yes.
And I have a vivid memory of a photograph of, and I can't think if it's in the movie or if it's just like a production shot, but R2 is putting 3PO's leg back on. So R2's, so 3PO is sitting, the legs extended, and R2's got that little screwdriver thing coming out. So I wonder if that probably wasn't Anthony in the suit at that point. They probably just positioned the suit to look like he was sitting.
What I'm saying is you'll never see him in the act of sitting.
Oh, in the act of sitting. Oh, I got you. Okay.
I mean, even when they cut away to that, when the Falcon is about ready to make the jump to light speed, and you see them all like shuffling around to get into the bench around the Dejeric table, and 3PO says, oh, I forgot how much I hate space travel. You just see him, he's almost sort of like sliding down. You never actually see him actually go from standing to sitting.
Gotcha.
Because the costume would not allow that.
It wasn't.
Somebody's going to prove me. Somebody's like dying to prove me wrong right now after I made such an emphatic statement.
Yeah, but we've talked to Anthony Daniels many times. You've talked to him lots of times. So that's probably something that we've heard right from his mouth.
Yeah. If we brought it up to him, he would change the topic because he's so tired of talking about it. But.
All right. So a little. Oh, I think Salacious is giving some. I think he's pointing. So I think he's showing the way to somebody. I shouldn't say Salacious. This isn't Salacious Crumb, but the little monkey lizard. He's like, this way.
The way Salacious Crumb got his name was after a day of working at ILM. The crew went over to the bar. You know this story, Jason?
I do. It's a great story.
Our buddy Sean House.
Yeah.
Our buddy Sean House knows this story, and he's currently over at 3210 Studios, the former home of ILM. But there was a bar across the street there, and they all went over there and had a bunch of beers. And they said, all right, well, see everybody tomorrow. And, maybe Phil Tippett was going to get a ride with someone. And so Phil said, hold up, guys, I got to tie my salacious. And they said, what did you just say? And he said, shoelaces. And they're like, you said salacious. He's like, I didn't say that. The pitchers of beer said that. And so when George toured ILM and he was looking at some creature design, he pointed at the monkey lizard and said, what's his name? And somebody said, Sulacious. And George said, okay. You'll probably have to change that name. So George changed it to Salacious.
I got to tie my shoelaces. If you're out with your buddies and they says something like that, you're going to never let them live that down. Hey, how are your salacious doing?
I gotta tie my shoelaces.
I like that he was so drunk that he couldn't say shoelaces properly, but he was cognizant of the safety of needing to have his shoelaces tied.
Yeah, right. He wasn't just some bull in a china shop. I mean, this guy was watching his P's and Q's to as much as the liquor would allow him,
Got to tie the shoelaces.
Safety and
not an animal.
I love Phil Tippett. I've been growing to like him a lot more because he's been more active. Tippett Studios been more active on social media. He's like the king of all stop motion animation. And I mean, we saw it all come to life in the Star Wars films. And so he's taken all of that knowledge and created this film called Mad God. It came out a couple years ago. And if you can track that down, it's pretty gruesome at times, and maybe not for everyone, but it is like the pinnacle of all of his years of working in the stop motion industry, really taking what guys like Ray Harryhausen did and pushing it all to the next level, to the point where Phil Tippett was the absolute king of the craft.
It came out in 2021, Mad God. It's over here on IMDb. The assassin travels through a nightmare underworld of tortured souls, ruined cities, and wretched monstrosities forged from the primordial horrors of the unconscious mind of Phil Tippett, the world's preeminent stop-motion animator.
Yes.
Wow.
30 years in the making. And it is like Nightmare, like Guillermo del Toro times 1,000, like Pan's Labyrinth on steroids.
Yeah, it says,
and that's what you get from Phil Tippett and Mad God.
They consider it like horror puppetry or whatever. It's like its own genre. Horror stop motion.
Horror puppetry.
Crazy.
Show it to your young son Parker. See what he thinks of it. I bet he'd love it.
He won't sleep for days, I guarantee you.
All right, let's get back to the Mando trailer. Right. So Salacious got us off on a tangent there, but there in the background you do see R5D4 is tailing.
Yes.
See, look at him back there. That's R5D4, and I believe he's the droid we see in the droid socket when Baby Yoda isn't sitting back there. And look at that alien there. Is that an alien, like an Ahsoka type alien in the background, just like over that woman's shoulder?
Yeah, right there. I see that. I can't tell, but I do see an EV droid, like EV99 over there on the far right. With you see the two glowing eyes there.
always working at some sort of console on a podium. These droids are, you know.
He's
you
so typecast, you know. He can't get any other work.
Right.
There's a podium in Star Wars. There's an EV droid. Oh, man. All right. Let's see what we got.
How
now.
many languages do you speak?
All right, so there's R5D4.
Sorry, I bumped
believe.
up ahead. Here we go. Okay, so now we got Grief in his...
Don't give me grief, Karga.
Yeah, check him out in his... what's his title here? Magistrate fatigues, we might call these?
Yes. Magistrate, yes. And he has a protocol droid. And
he's got a funky looking face. He's got like a 3PO body, but he's got those long fingers. Like, was it Afra? Dr. Afra has a protocol droid that has like long fingers. At least that's what it looked. Unless he's holding something, but
he could be holding.
Looks like he's got oversized hands, but the face looks real weird.
I wonder if that's
3PO
Chris
wearing a
Bartlett.
mask.
I wonder if that's Chris Bartlett playing that, because he's like their go-to droid guy now, you know.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a droid outfit that needs to be filled, and he also does all kind of funky alien characters and stuff too. But when it comes to protocol droids wearing all that armored plating, that would be Chris most likely.
And is that the welcoming committee there? Is that a band? They look like they're celebrating.
Yeah, they do, but they look like they're looking off in another direction. It appears they're looking off to the left. While maybe it's just background stuff,
right?
It's just to show like there's a lot of pomp and circumstance when Grief Karga comes out into the plaza.
Yeah.
And he's got his protocol droid in tow. I mean, that means that there's an important visitor showing up here at Navarro.
He's very respectable these days.
And then look, you see in the background the statue of IG-11.
There it is.
His foot.
Yeah.
And so that was seen in season 2 when Mando stopped off at Navarro and dropped Baby Yoda off at school. Baby Yoda's sitting there right in the back. He thinks he's going back to school. You know, he's like, oh, damn, summer vacation's over. You know, I was having a great time on my spring break with Luke Skywalker, making things float, doing flips. Ahsoka was there, and then we got to go to Mos Espa and fight a Rancor. And now I got to go back to school. This is going to suck.
You might get some more of those cookies, though.
Oh, he does love those cookies. Too much of them, that's bad news, though. But you see that statue of IG-88. He's standing on stormtrooper helmets.
IG-11.
IG-11.
Yeah.
Pardon me. I flourished just like David Pasquazi. Oh, please accept my most humble apologies. Okay. So, and I think there's a power droid behind there as well.
Yeah, there's a gonk. Yeah.
As Mando reaches out to shake Grief Karga's hand. That's Apollo Creed, son. Okay, there's the N1 starfighter. Appears flying through fog or clouds or emerging from hyperspace. Maybe
there. I think Jim.
That's a storm. That's a storm.
Yeah, that looks like he's got R5D4 in the back.
Yes.
At that point.
Definitely R5. So like R5 is now Mando's droid, much like R2 was Luke's droid. R5 is Mando's droid. So who thought that R5D4 back in 1977, when his motivator was busting up all over the sands of Tatooine, that he would be teamed up here with some A-team level Star Wars characters 40 years later. You got Din Djarin, you got Baby Yoda, and you got R5D4. He's part of the gang now.
Do you think we might see if Luke comes back, could we see a reunion between Luke and R5? And he could look at Mando and say, well, that's the astro droid that had the bad motivator. I think it would come back.
Chump!
It would come back out of him.
He's like, oh, that one's a lemon. You're such a chump. You Mandos don't know how to shop for droids. But what would R2 be thinking?
Oh, man.
Like, oh, there's that one. There's that one. That was a close. There's some expanded universe stuff out there that suggests R2 told R5 to blow the motivator for, to sacrifice himself so R2 would be placed with Luke Skywalker and the films could continue. But
maybe R2 said, and someday you'll be hanging with Baby Yoda and Mando, and you will be the talk of the galaxy.
R5-D4 was also known as Skippy, the Jedi droid, in the Star Wars Tales comic books from Dark Horse, and that was, that was non-canon stuff. Yeah, Skippy, the Jedi droid. Come on, Swank, you don't know about that one? I think it was the very first issue of Star Wars Tales. Star Wars Tales was a collection of what-if stories, and one of them was Skippy, the Jedi droid, and
was it What If Star Wars
R5-D4.
Sucked with Skippy the droid? Is that what the whole
Well, I mean,
concept
sometimes,
was?
sometimes you can see it's pretty obvious why certain narrative decisions were avoided by George Lucas like the plague.
But
for the guys at Dark Horse, they're just trying to sell some comic books, man. Let's not, put them over the coals. Poor guys.
Look at that.
So, yeah, there's R5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's going to be a bumpy landing. All right, now we got the armorer, and she's forging something.
She's got
the molten Beskar.
Molten Beskar. That's a good name for a band. We are Molten Beskar, and we're gonna rock. So but it looks like she's got a big project underway here. This isn't just melting a couple of little bars. She's got a whole cauldron filled of Beskar there.
Yeah.
And so she has some confrontation with the Mandalorian here where they, try to clear the air maybe a little bit, or he tells her he's going to the planet Mandalore.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I'll prove to you. Because, so if I remember correctly, and I scribbled down some notes here because I went back and reviewed some of those Book of Boba Fett episodes recently that featured the Mandalorian. And I watched the episodes prior to them so I could earn my way. That's how you have to do
every
it.
time.
You have to prove yourself. Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. But the armor said the only way Din could clear his name is and clear his sins, I guess, to pay penance and he has to go to the sacred waters beneath the surface of the planet Mandalore. Specifically, the living waters under the mines of Mandalore. Go there. And that's where you will be cleansed of sin. So, I guess that's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
Season 3,
So I think he. If I could just take a guess here, I think Mando's mission, I think he's going to have it's going to be a two-parter. The first thing that he's going to do is, cleanse himself, become, a fully baptized or whatever expression it is,
Yes.
Mando again. And then he's got to deal with this Darksaber because he's a reluctant carrier of this Darksaber. He doesn't want it, doesn't want the responsibility.
I don't know. He may have evolved because we see he has followers. I believe that's what
you think those are followers that he has?
Yes.
In the beginning? Okay. I
believe that those two with the night owl masks, the white helmets, and the orange helmet, I believe they were standing guard over him.
He might be using
he was
them.
Conducting Mandalorian business. Well,
and I don't mean in a bad way, but do you think he wants it? Do you think all of a sudden he's going to wake up and say, I got it. I might as well use it.
Maybe he has found a bunch of other Mandalorians who have been shunned because they have had to remove their helmet for some reason or another.
Oh, the shunned.
So they're on a pilgrimage now to Mandalore. So he doesn't have to do it alone. That could be.
That's interesting. That's an interesting idea.
Right. I mean, it's got to be pretty hard to keep that damn helmet on your whole flipping life,
Yeah.
So there we see the city, the domed city. It's devastated. That happened during the Great Purge, the Night of 1,000 Tears. And the Empire just laid waste to the planet.
Yeah, I mean, the planet
prior to
is
the Death Star.
Yeah, what's that?
If they didn't, if this happened maybe in the original trilogy era, they would have just pulled the Death Star up and blown the planet up.
Yes.
But the Empire only had one shot at that before the Death Star was destroyed, and that was Alderaan, of course.
But we know what damage, some Star Destroyers can wreak on a planet.
Sure.
We've seen that. So, But yeah, I mean, and of course, the Mandalore is just, in addition to this, has just been pummeled by its own history of civil war and all kinds of chaos and bloodshed.
Well, they are the Klingons of Star Wars, let's face it.
They are. You're absolutely right.
They are.
The Klingons.
They
Here's a
are.
better shot of our fight.
Klingons had cool foreheads. Mandalorians have cool armor.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
There's Pelly and one of the little mechanic droids.
Pit droids.
Yeah.
And you get, then she says, "May the Force be with you."
That's right. She does.
It's just kind of confusing.
I like Pelly. She's girly grown on me. At first, she struck me as one of those kind of out of universe kind of goofy comic characters, but I don't know. She's endeared herself to me.
Her perspective on the stuff that's going on around her is probably the most representative of us as fans watching this stuff. Like, she represents, if we were plucked out of the convention center and dropped into this actual real Star Wars universe, we would all be Peli Motos. We would react the way she reacts. And then we try to figure out a way to take advantage of the whole system like she does, too. So,
yeah.
First we would freak, then we would adapt, and then we would earn. That's what Peli Moto does.
Maybe she is from another dimension, another galaxy. There's little baby Yoda again, checking out some sights. This looks like, what are they? Maybe when they're coming into Navarro.
Or flying away, because the next shot you see the fireworks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so now that's making sense because you were talking about the pomp and circumstance. I thought that might have been a band or some sort of welcoming committee. So Mando might be popping in for some sort of festival. They could be, who knows, maybe they're commemorating the anniversary of IG-11's moment, or it could be when Grief Karga became magistrate, and it's some sort of bash for him. Who knows?
Right. It's like the Navarro Independence Day.
Right.
So, and of course, we know fireworks exist in the Star Wars universe, as we saw at the end of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
When there was fireworks over the forest moon of Endor. And I always assumed it was the X-Wing pilots dropping the fireworks up into the sky. They weren't being launched from the ground. Because X-Wings fly by and then there's fireworks behind them.
Yeah,
so I thought
that makes sense to me. That's much cooler.
They have a button for proton torpedo. They have a button for, large green flower firework.
Why not?
But the fireworks, they all have great names, like, impressive flower display, things like that. Magical flowers. Yeah, it's always something flowers.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's all they could do, But I always, I love the fireworks like this one here when they look like the Death Star exploding. That original effect of the Death Star exploding from the original version of A New Hope.
The Orig, yeah. Classic.
I always thought it looked like a firework. Hey, is that Baby Yoda with the yoke of the N1 Starfighter there?
Was he holding?
He was punching it.
He was punching it.
He was definitely punching it.
Is Baby Yoda old enough to punch it? I think he is. Little Anakin hit the same button in that shit back when he was blowing up Trade Federation starfighters. So here we are at Coruscant. We haven't been to Coruscant on the Star Wars timeline.
Oh, and look who this is.
Dr. Pershing.
Dr. Pershing. And a Macquarie 3PO. Or at least that's what it looks like.
You got it. The Macquarie 3PO.
Look at that.
I mean, these designs, all these designs Ralph McQuarrie did, and they were rejected by George Lucas, or it was just like, try to refine this idea a little more, you know?
Yeah, right.
And then Ralph would take the originals and like put them in a box behind his water heater in his basement where they sat there in the Bay Area untouched for decades. Now worth a fortune.
Right.
And published over 100 times. But, to Ralph, this was the stuff that didn't work. This is the stuff that didn't stick. It was his first try. It was his rough draft. It was not the final product. And now all that stuff is being realized is like, oh no, Ralph, your simple little doodles that you did while you were talking on the phone are worth everything to us.
Yeah.
And we're going to use it, and we're going to bring it back into Star Wars, and we're going to do it without any shame, and we're going to, celebrate the great artistry of Ralph McQuarrie. The stuff that he made for George Lucas that didn't work works 1,000 times over nowadays. I think that's amazing. I mean, that's a really amazing thing to think about when you do. It's the rejects from Ralph McQuarrie's
Ralph McQuarrie's
portfolio.
rejects are better than, anything else you might find around with some people working in the business today. But I know the point is that it's Star Wars. Ralph's rejects look more Star Wars than a lot of guys' work that they're trying to make look like Star Wars.
Right. I mean, he invented the visual language of Star Wars.
And this is the face that Anthony Daniels looked upon in that painting.
Right.
And immediately established a connection with this poor soul. And
I love hearing Anthony tell that story. He gets so dramatic when he tells it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw it on the wall, and I froze. And we locked eyes, me and this piece of artwork hanging on a wall here in some random office somewhere. He gets so dramatic about it.
But man, he remembers
what I
every
do.
detail. He remembers every detail.
What a memory. What a memory. I mean, even if he's BSing us and making it all up on the fly, that's still pretty impressive that he can
Either way
make up stories like that on the fly. Either way,
Right.
the guy's we love him.
So Dr.
Definitely
Pershing, he's coming back. Which,
There he is.
What's he up to?
What is he up to?
His boss, Gideon, is, as far as we know, still in Republic hands, getting shaken down. So what's he up to? Is this a clue that the hunt is back on for Baby Yoda?
Well, I don't think it ever stopped. And this guy, he's out searching for answers. He's a scientist, and he's steeped in this research. The research that will eventually pave the way for somehow Palpatine to return.
Somehow.
And but I mean, they're going to flesh that out, folks. And it's through characters like Dr. Pershing and shows like The Mandalorian where some of these gaping holes in the sequel story are going to be filled in. So I like that. I really appreciate that.
I do too,
I know a lot
because
of
the
people
films
go,
are the films. There's nothing we can do. But there's nothing we can do other than provide more context for them. And that can help. As we know, the Clone Wars provided a lot of context for episodes 2 and 3.
The prequels, the prequel trilogy alone provided an entire different perspective on the original trilogy.
Yes.
It's almost like you can't even look at the original trilogy the same way anymore after you become immersed in the prequels. So, I mean, that ability to make the story something that continues to grow and evolve is welcome to me, because those are obvious plot holes as we see it now,
right,
in the sequel trilogy. But hey, let's fill in some of the, that's a lot of blue sky as far as I'm concerned. So, and a lot of fun too. So here's Pershing. he's obviously working with the Baby Yoda thing. See, the thing about Baby Yoda, and this is what drives me nuts about the whole mystery box thing, and I'm not going to keep beating this horse, but it needs to be talked about. 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. A couple episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. Now we're rolling into season 3 of The Mandalorian. Who the hell is Baby Yoda? What is Grogu? What the hell is this? What are we doing with this?
Well, what do we know?
How does a 50-year span go by? And this guy doesn't age. He doesn't change. He seems to be completely unaware of a 50-year period from when he was removed from the Jedi Temple.
Right.
And then Din Djarin finds him there on Nick Nolte's planet.
Queel.
Queel. I remember the actors more than I do the characters sometimes.
You're a Mandalorian.
But yes, I have spoken. I am smoking. From begin, yeah, that's his whole story. From beginning, I have spoken. To the end, I am smoking. That is the story of Queel. But so what's up with that period of time? Or they have to reveal stuff to us? This is this mystery box.
Well, he's
BS
50 years old. He wasn't gone for 50 years, or off the map for 50 years. So it would have been from the events of Revenge of the Sith, Order 66, until
the character himself has no knowledge of that window,
right?
According to Ahsoka,
correct. So his memory has been wiped. His memory has been wiped.
Yes. We're going into year 4 of Baby Yoda's existence here amongst us as fans. All right? The Mandalorian debuted November 2019. And it's January 2023, and we still don't know this stuff about Grogu's story. And I think that it's make or break time now for The Mandalorian. I think all of that stuff needs to be filled in. Season 3.
By the end of season 3, we need to know all this.
Because if not, I mean, I'm starting to feel like we're getting strung along here. Much like what happened with the Lost series, which at the end of the day turned out to be a big stringing along of the audience. The creatives didn't know what direction that story was going in. They didn't. It evolved into something that they found very hard to maintain, and then they tried to wrap it up real quickly with answers to a lot of the questions they proposed that seemed half-baked at the end of the day. And you can ask a lot of Lost fans about how they feel about that. And I don't know how well that show is aged or anything. I'm not involved in Lost fandom. Trust me. But that's how I felt as somebody who watched that whole series unfold from episode 1 to the final episode. Yeah. And never missed an episode. So, I mean, that's how I felt. I felt strung along at the end. And that really established a new Hollywood
I had the same experience with that James Spader show, which was great, The Blacklist. I had the same experience. It went
just
for
went
almost 10 seasons, and it just was drip, drip, drip. And then they would reveal something, and then it would be like, no, we were lying. And that's even more maddening. You think you know something, and then you don't. So, yeah, these creatives do need to, I think, learn from some of the classics where it's okay for things to just be what they are and, to not lead you down the primrose path for years on end. I think too much is made, Jim. We've said this several times, but the big shock in Empire Strikes Back, I think, made a lot of people think that Star Wars now is a big mystery and everybody has to be related and everybody has to be somebody. And when you think about it, that was one big major instance.
Right.
And a lot of people have used that to sort of, that it should be commonplace in Star Wars storytelling. It's not a prerequisite. You don't have to have some big mystery and a reveal. You can just tell a linear story.
This is very true. And, I don't want to continue talking because I risk repeating myself when I say, well, it's just a gimmick. Well, they're just taking advantage of us as an audience. They assume our loyalty is going to be forever, but I don't need to say all that right now.
No.
I want to get back into this Mandalorian trailer and look for some clues as to I think we get a couple clues here maybe in this trailer before it wraps up about Baby Yoda and what we may or may not learn. So there's Dr. Pershing.
Yeah.
Of course, he's up to his main goal in life is to fill in some of those Palpatine plot holes from Episode 9.
Yes.
And then Baby Yoda is back in the cockpit again. I mean, how many shots are we going to see Baby Yoda in the N1 Starfighter cockpit? But there he is. Okay, there's Carson Teva.
Yes.
Captain Carson Teva. He's wearing his uniform, not his X-Wing pilot gear that we've only seen him in. Looks like he's wearing a badass bomber jacket, leather jacket with cool patches on it, one of them being the symbol of the Rebel Alliance, or what I would assume to be then the New Republic.
Mm-hmm.
New Republic. He's a ranger of the New Republic, maybe.
Right.
And this is where I believe some of those story ideas that were being developed for the canned Rangers of the New Republic show, I believe those storylines are going to be represented through Carson Teva and some of the things he'll be doing in this show. So, as we heard Kathleen Kennedy say, there were no scripts actually developed for the Rangers of the New Republic show, but the development that did go into that show is going to be absorbed by other shows like The Mandalorian. Probably 100% by The Mandalorian.
Maybe they should just do Rangers of the New Republic and throw Peli Motto in there as the Gina Carano role.
Listen, I don't think you want that. I don't think I want that. And I know Peli doesn't want that. She wants to chill out there in her docking bay and hang out with her pit droids and just live a chill life with some, occasional late night visits from Jawas, But that's Peli. That's how she rolls.
So we see, what's his name again? Is it Teva? Teva?
Captain Carson Teva.
Carson Teva. We just need to know where Wolf is. Wolf is his wingman.
Well, he had a different wingman in Book of Boba Fett.
It wasn't Wolf?
Was it Book? Yeah, it was Book of Boba Fett. His wingman was the guy. He was a different X-Wing pilot. But he was the guy who was the stand-in for CGI Luke in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Yeah. So the other guy is off making another show about Ahsoka Tano. That's where he is. he's knee deep in Ahsoka town.
Yeah.
He's not really I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting story. How much was Dave Filoni able to bounce from different projects like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka show, and his name is attached to the Bad Batch still. So,
yeah, my hunch is that he was probably doing a lot of writing and overseeing some pre-production while on set of Mando season 3. And then as soon as Mando season 3 wrapped principal photography, I think then Dave was off to shoot Ahsoka. I think Favreau. My hunch is that he likes having Dave there when they're
John
shooting this show.
He's involved in other things as well.
Oh,
too.
that's
but
true.
I mean, what is John Favreau involved in these days? I mean, are there any of those Marvel films with John's name attached to him? I don't know of any like outside projects he currently has in production outside of Star Wars.
I think he's pretty full-time Star Wars, unless a Happy Hogan cameo shows up in one of these future Marvel movies.
Well, there is a sequel to Jungle Book in development right now, and Favreau's name is attached to that. Yes.
A Jungle Book. See, Jungle Book 2? There's no
His name is
Jungle Book
attached
2.
to the live-action Jungle Book 2, which is currently in development. Now, that could mean a bunch of things, you know. That could mean somebody else is doing the heavy lifting on that right now, and he's just attached to it because, of course, he directed the original. But the only things I'm seeing on IMDb that's upcoming for Jon Favreau as a producer is the Ahsoka series, executive producer, Skeleton Crew, executive producer, Jungle Book 2, producer, and oddly enough, Rangers of the New Republic in production. So I guess IMDb, you got to fix that. Rangers of the New Republic in production. I'm looking at this right in front of my eyes. Rangers of the New Republic has not been in production in forever.
IMDb is always the most accurate.
Well, that surprises me. That surprises me.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But it appears that there's nothing but Star Wars in the future for Jon Favreau. The last thing that it appears that he has done outside of Star Wars in the last few years is a show called Prehistoric Planet. It was a miniseries, and he served as executive producer. And so you know that maybe his involvement in that was limited at best. Alien Christmas, executive producer, TV special, 2020. Never heard of it. And then the Chef Show. That's the last thing I recall seeing Jon Favreau on camera. And the last project I recall him doing that was outside of Star Wars, the Chef Show, where he was just like...
He's a foodie, isn't he, Favreau?
Well, yeah, he's a foodie. Yeah. He did the film Chef, and from there it kind of led him into a culinary lifestyle.
I think he's been on that Cake Boss show. I think he hangs out with some of those guys.
The man likes to eat.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so here's Teva, and
big enough for you to act.
Now he is propositioning Mando here. If these cuts can be believed, you know they do this in trailers, but it sounds like he's propositioning Mando, and this is Jim, where I think what you were saying about perhaps folding in some of the Rangers of the New Republic stories and some of the plot lines,
right?
Is happening, and it looks like that Teva is trying to recruit Mando to, well, he's given him that speech of, you know, contributing in a much larger way to the New Republic, and that he could be useful. You know, they let him off. You know, they didn't give him those speeding tickets that they could have written him up with a couple of times.
And then he holds up a gloved hand and says, "Join me," and together.
Right. Now, what are we looking at here? Is this a cave of some sort?
All right, recall what the armor told Din he had to do to reconcile his sin of removing his helmet. The armor said the only way Din could clear his sins is to go to the living waters under the mines of Mandalore. So I think we might be seeing some underground access to those caves here, or maybe the mines themselves. The deserted mines of Mandalore.
Maybe he could just tell the armorer that he went there. It's like, oh yeah, I went there. It was wild
how do you
place.
Prove it?
Yeah, how do you prove it? Yeah.
Something special must happen.
Yeah.
Maybe that's those fireworks we see at the end. Maybe that's what happens. Go to the mines of Mandalore.
Oh, wait a minute.
Have a
Yeah,
fireworks
he's
show.
washing his helmet off here, it looks like maybe.
No, I don't believe so. I believe he's pulling up a Mandalorian helmet from
the ashes. Yep, you're right. It's not water.
Of their planet.
I thought it was water. It's sand and dirt and years.
It gets everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what Anakin said.
Yeah, so he's doing a little archaeological digging here and seeing the remnants of the war, the purge, all of that.
Maybe it's his old helmet. Oh, I can't believe I found it.
Here it is.
Wow. I remember this helmet.
Still fits. Yep. There it is.
It has an odd T-shaped visor.
It does. So this is,
I don't know.
I don't want to say prehistoric.
That's the damage.
Yeah.
But it's, the T parts at the top kind of, there's a little cutaway in there. That you don't normally see. So I don't know if that's a result of it rotting away in these wastes, or if it's actually a new kind of T-visor we're seeing here for the first time.
Yeah, it's almost like you know, when you see those documentaries when they go to Pompeii and all the people were just frozen in time from the volcanic eruption. Like it's kind of like something like that, you know?
Yeah, it was in the 3rd grade, and the museum exhibit Pompeii 79 AD was on tour.
Oh, no way.
I went with my school to go see it at the Field Museum
That's the stuff
downtown
of nightmares,
Chicago.
man.
And they had those bodies covered in ash, like fighting for their lives, frozen in time. And I'd be presented that as a young kid, and I'm looking at that going, holy crap, I hope there aren't volcanoes around the Chicago area, otherwise we're screwed. But it made that kind of impression.
Oh, I'm
on me.
sure.
I'll never forget walking through that and learning about how all these people perished in that Pompeii volcanic explosion at Mount Vesuvius from thousands of years ago.
Yeah, it's
like, oh man,
it's hideous. See if we can find
it ain't the way to go.
I got
just ask Anakin.
I got a picture. Look at this. You can see the people trying to crawl away.
Well,
All
Swank,
right.
come on.
Let's get back.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Give
How
me the
dare I? What am I
heebie-jeebies
doing here?
with this Pompeii?
Okay,
Baby
now
Yoda.
we're really getting to the meat here.
right.
So Baby Yoda
there's Baby
looks
Yoda.
like he's having a flashback.
Yeah,
and
but why
this
do you
is
think
the
he's having a flashback?
Well, because there's this sort of like atmosphere around his head.
Right.
Yeah.
But could that be that little egg thing he floats around in?
Maybe. I don't
Or
know.
is that
between
an
them.
effect?
I feel like it's an effect. I could be wrong, but then they go right into what must be a flashback.
Right. Well, I felt like also maybe that was kind of like that effect Anakin was having when he was having those nightmares in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
You know, of Padme crying and stuff. It sort of had that tunnel vision.
Yes,
look
that's
to
exactly
it.
right. The tunnel vision.
Yeah.
What about my mother?
Yes. I'm topless with a bionic arm. Oh, that's freaked out my 6-year-old when I took him to see Revenge of the Sith back in 2005.
Oh, really?
Those nightmares. You know, because there was so much talk about Revenge of the Sith. Oh, it's the first Star Wars PG-13 movie. Should we take our kids to see this? Well, there's some violent stuff and kind of bloody stuff at the end. Oh, of course, when Anakin Skywalker gets burned. Yes, I'm expecting that. I'll deal with my kid when that happens.
Sure.
Oh. It bounced off of him like a piece of silly putty. He could care less about that. It was the nightmares of Padme crying, and he wakes up and he's all like, "Oh my god!" Because I think that was something a kid can relate to. It's like that's nightmares.
Yeah,
that's, kids
especially about a parent being in
Anakin's
danger.
having a nightmare, for crying out loud. A super Jedi like Anakin's having a nightmare, and that's scary. Just the psychological idea of it all is scary to a kid.
Yes,
and my kid showed that off. You know,
I thought you were about to
You
say
put-
that a shirtless Anakin Skywalker was what was scary. Yeah,
Oh well, yeah.
With the
I took my
mechanical
wife
arm.
to a screening, and it was scary at how much she was drooling at that.
Yeah, right.
Eating
I was gonna say,
Christensen vision.
if I looked like that, I would never wear a shirt. If I looked like he did in that movie, I would just wear a tie like a Chippendale. What?
and the cuffs,
Right. Yeah,
just the cuffs with no shirts. That's my favorite fashion look. I mean, really, if I could pull that off, just to go about my day-to-day business with a sleeveless shirt and those cuffs that the Chippendales guys wear.
Right.
Throw in the bow tie too. What the hell? If I could get around my day-to-day existence dressed as a Chippendale stripper, with his clothes on, mind you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be very ill-fitting Chippendale wardrobe, but I'd still be wearing it with the little cuffs.
Yeah, I think I would probably look more like Chris Farley in that classic SNL sketch with Patrick Swayze than I would Anakin Skywalker, Hayden
Right,
Christensen.
one of us,
Yeah.
Chris Farley. But yeah, maybe the next convention, Swank.
Yeah, break
You
that
can
out.
think about it. We'll talk.
All right, so let's look at these Jedi in the what
Yes.
is clearly the halls of the Jedi Temple. I'd know it anywhere. This is very likely a flashback of Baby Yoda going back to Order 66. And Jim, you were saying, hey, it's time to, let's open up the mystery box. Let's get to the meat of what's the backstory of Baby Yoda. Maybe this is a sign that they're going to do just that.
That's exactly what I mean. And there's two ways of looking at this sequence. You can see it as a moment where we're finally going to fully get the Baby Yoda story fleshed out, where we learn how he escaped the Jedi Temple and what happened in that 50 years of downtime when he was being hidden from the Empire, clearly, and the Inquisitors and what have you. And then there's another direction that a lot of fans have been talking about, is that maybe this is the moment when the Darksaber is taken from the Jedi Temple and returned to the Mandalorian people. Now, that's part of Star Wars lore that goes back to the Star Wars Rebels, where the story of Tar Vizsla was explained and how he was a Mandalorian Jedi who died in service and his saber was stored in the Jedi Temple. The Jedi and the Mandalorian had a conflict, maybe over the Darksaber itself. And somehow the Darksaber was returned to the Mandalorians. And then it ended up in the possession of Pre Vizsla, and then Darth Maul, Bo-Katan, Moff Gideon, and Din Djarin. That's the succession of the Darksaber as we know it. As we know it. But so a lot of people are talking. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way because that's like ancient times, like thousands of years before the Mandalorian. And what we're looking at here looks like a set right out of the prequel era.
Yep.
With Jedi right out of the prequel era. So I think this is an Order 66 situation and the evacuation of Baby Yoda from the Jedi.
Now, here's a question. Could this be, we were talking about Hayden Christensen, could this be a Hayden cameo? Hayden's been around. He's been in front of cameras for recent projects. Might we get a little Hayden back as, I guess we shouldn't call him Anakin, Darth Vader at this point in his siege on the Jedi Temple?
Well, I guess that depends on who's on the other side of that doorway.
Right. I'm guessing it's Anakin in the 501st.
Yeah. It could be. It could be. I mean, when they did the flashback in the Kenobi show, it was presented very similar to this.
Right.
And it was Anakin with clone troopers. So, why not? Why wouldn't it be any different than that show? So, Anakin Skywalker had a busy day that day. That's all I got to say. He's coming across everyone.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Skywalker.
I want to put you on the spot real quick here.
Or what if Baby Yoda's in that room with the Master Skywalker?
Right. Well, that kind of leads to the question I just want to ask you. And all
right, put me on the spot.
I'm just going to throw out one name. If you had to throw out a guess as to who saved Baby Yoda, based on characters we know, and I'm assuming it has to be some sort of legacy character. It has to be some character of weight. If you had to put your money on it right now, who would have saved Baby Yoda?
This is the toughest question. And this is a question I should have probably been pondering a lot. And I really haven't been, This mystery box thing is a bunch of horse crap as far as I'm concerned. Tell me a linear story. But all right, so who saved flipping Baby Yoda? Well, who's around?
That's the question. Who's around?
Who's around? What if, oddly, it was Anakin Skywalker?
What
if he wipes everyone out and then he sees that Baby Yoda sitting there? He goes, wait a second, I might have some use for this thing.
Yeah.
And he freezes Baby Yoda in carbonite. And Baby Yoda stays frozen in carbonite until shortly before the events of the Mandalorian premiere episode.
Hence why he doesn't remember anything.
Hence why. So that's my wildest guess.
Okay, Anakin
maybe
Skywalker. Wow.
He was taken into the custody of the Empire via Anakin.
He wasn't
And
rescued after all. Maybe. The assumption is he was rescued.
Ahsoka does give us some background, doesn't she? And I think everything Ahsoka says in that episode from season 2 is to be taken on face value, 100% fact.
Yeah.
So she says that Grogu was. What does she say?
I think she uses the term rescued.
Rescued?
I believe so.
Well, there's, rescued from a certain point of view.
Sure. There's ways to wiggle out of this. But you were talking about, who's left. Mace Windu is gone.
He's gone.
Ki-Adi Mundi, Ayla Secura, they're all gone. They were off-world at the time. Who was on-world? I've got a wild idea.
Yarel Poof?
Jocasta Nu.
Jocasta.
What if this was her? Because she's not a Jedi, I don't believe. Isn't that part of her backstory?
Yeah, no. She's a Jedi.
Oh, she is Jedi?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
okay. All right. I thought she was kind of a normie that just worked there in the archives.
No.
Okay. Jocasta's a Jedi. I'm going with Jocasta Nu. That's my prediction. Jocasta Nu.
Well, I'd like to see some sort of foreshadowing into that. But it's impossible to.
No, yeah.
Because they've really provided us with very little insight. The only Jedi we've seen Grogu come into contact with are Ahsoka and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the Anakin Skywalker tie-in. I would love to see surprise cameo from Hayden. Hayden is back in the stable.
Yeah.
We know he's going to be in the Ahsoka show.
Mm-hmm.
Could he make a surprise appearance in The Mandalorian in that flashback sequence? Well, take a look at the door, that blast door. I mean,
open the
blast
door.
Does it look like a saber? Like a saber kind of melts the...
Yeah, this does not... It just looks like... To me, this does not look like a saber. This looks to me...
No, it doesn't.
Like these are blaster... Well...
Or some sort of explosive, like at the very beginning of A New Hope, when the stormtroopers raid they capture and then raid the Corellian Corvette, the rebel blockade runner.
The Tantive
remember that blast door at the end of the hallway? The blast door at the end of the hallway, it all like sort of sparked and sizzled on the border.
It did.
Much like is happening with this door.
This is no saber blade cutting through the metal.
No, because like the saber blade kind of melts it a little and makes it red hot, like Qui-Gon's did. This is more like trooper technology here at play. These are troopers coming through the door. Maybe there is an Anakin Skywalker with those troopers, but I'm saying just troopers.
Yeah, I would imagine that Anakin likes to make an entrance, and so if he was there, it's likely he would have used that old saber through the door trick.
Yeah.
For the drama. He likes the drama.
Drama's huge.
So these just could be... And one of these Jedi, I mean, it doesn't have to be a legacy character. I just thought, if anyone is going to rescue Baby Yoda, it would be someone that we're already somewhat familiar with. But as, we were pointing out, Jim, I mean, there's not many left. I mean, most of them were off-world during the final battles of the Clone War. And, anybody left at the temple, pretty obscure characters.
Yeah. Now, I have some information here from episode 13 of The Mandalorian. Ahsoka feeling... She's not reading Grogu's thoughts. She's feeling his thoughts, okay?
All right.
That always puzzled me about the usage of the Force in general. Reach out with your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell does that really mean? I'm happy.
That's why you're not a Jedi.
I don't know how to do that. I'm angry. Okay, so Ahsoka says that Grogu was raised on the Jedi Temple on Coruscant.
Right.
Many masters trained him over the years. Many masters have trained him over the years. At the end of the Clone Wars, when the Empire rose to power, says Ahsoka to Din Djarin, he was hidden. But it doesn't say by who. Ahsoka doesn't
hidden,
reveal
not
by who.
rescued.
Ahsoka says someone took him from the temple. Someone took him from the temple. Then his memory becomes dark. He seemed lost. That's all she could suck out of his memories. That he felt lost, alone. Everything went dark. I think Baby Yoda was frozen in carbonite.
Man, I think,
and it's not
I
explicit.
think you're just crazy enough to be right.
Say what?
I said I think you're crazy. That's a crazy enough idea to be right.
Reading between the lines. It just says someone took him from the temple, so I think that leaves it wide open that he could have been taken by the Empire.
Baby Yoda in carbonite.
But what could explain the whole situation with him? Not remembering, and also he had been trained by many masters.
Right.
So when we see Luke training Baby Yoda, that is certainly not his first training session. And
no, and why many masters? I mean, because he's 50
that
years
was
old.
Life in the Jedi Temple.
Well, right, and he was unlike the other younglings that aged at a more human rate. He's aging so slowly. He's 50 years old and still a baby. So I'm sure. Think of how many teachers retire at a school over the course of 25, 30 years, however long it was. So, yeah. So it's probably whatever it is you call Yoda's species, it's probably a challenging life when you're surrounded by people and beings that don't live anywhere near as long as you do. Be kind of wild, kind of lonely.
Challenging life.
Yeah.
I struggle existing around my own children, and they're only a generation removed from me or whatever. So, yeah, challenging life. Could you imagine being 900 years old and dealing with Generation Z? Are you crazy?
Wow.
But that's Yoda,
No, I do think that it very well could be one of those things where we're hoping and believing that it's going to be a character that we all know and love and are familiar with. It's going to take Baby Yoda. I guess we can't say rescue because as Ahsoka reveals to Luke or to Mando that he was hidden, not rescued. Hidden is a very, very different thing. Sure, the process of hiding him may have rescued him, but was that the intent of the person that is doing the hiding? So it does, open the possibilities of an Anakin Skywalker. Like Jimmy said, this could come in handy. I might have use for this. And I don't know if it was carbonite. That's kind of fun to think about if it was carbonite, but if it wasn't, what was it? It was some way to sort of hold him there. But we also know that Baby Yoda is powerful. And, you would need to have something to sort of keep his power at bay. So whether it would be, carbonite or stuck in that pram, like when Mando found him, he was stuck in that pram. So there's got to be a reason why they chose the word hide versus rescue. Jim, I was saying that, the process of hiding Baby Yoda might have, in a sense, rescued him, but that doesn't matter if that wasn't the intent of the hider. So whoever hid him, may have not had the most pure motives, so it very well could have been an Anakin Skywalker who thought, hey, I've got use for this thing down the line.
Absolutely. And to build off of that and to expand on the things I was saying as far as my speculation for season 3, I believe that the Empire has Baby Yoda frozen in carbonite, or at the very least in that amber-like fluid which Obi-Wan Kenobi saw Jedi entombed in when he visited the Fortress Inquisitorius. It could be that, too. You know, when I say frozen in carbonite, I think I should also include that option.
All right. Let's get through this trailer. We've just got a few seconds left on it. Where were we? All right. We got the Jedi standing guard at the door. The Jedi Temple. Oh, look at these TIE fighters. These are fun. It looks like they're chasing Mando in the N1 Starfighter.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Those are from Return of the Jedi. Those are TIE Fighter Advanced.
Yeah, with the pointy wings.
Advanced TIE Fighters.
Yeah.
But take a look at what Din Djarin's flying. If the trailer is to be believed, check out the ship he's flying. I don't know if you recognize what it is, but it's this. It's a Mandalorian gauntlet shuttle.
What the hell is that thing?
You don't recognize.
I don't recognize this at all.
It was sold during the Clone Wars era, but only in Canada. And it's a Mandalorian shuttle. We've seen this a few times in The Mandalorian, associated with Bo-Katan.
So she's riding one of those.
I think so.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there it is. There's that Mandalorian transport.
Yes. The Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet. This looks like I think they're at a bar here.
I think that's Daft Punk. No?
Is it?
No, it's not. It's a droid. It's a
droid.
A cool droid. A droid we've never seen before. Serving up Mando in a bar filled with nothing else.
It's a droid bar. Oh, my God.
R2's
I'm
battle
sorry.
droids.
I thought it was just a regular bar. I don't know how I got in here. It's
Have you noticed everyone here other than us are droids? Oh, no. We're in one of those places. Well, we are. Yeah, and you even see that McQuarrie 3PO back there.
Yeah, the McQuarrie 3PO. Look at that. You've got that RA7 protocol droid, the black one.
The special for the night is Valvoline. And everyone's having a good old time.
But I love the battle droids.
bar.
Look at them. They're all like veterans of the Clone Wars, just tipping some back.
They're back there. They're like the two old guys from the Muppet Show. They're just sitting in the back busting balls.
Right.
Making fun of everybody.
Now, wait a minute. Okay, you know that real bizarre looking droid on the in A New Hope on the sand crawler, and I remember as a kid thinking he looked like a clown, like he had a big wild smile on his face. You know which one I'm talking about? He's back there in the background.
Oh yeah, CZ.
Is that CZ?
Yeah, he could also be seen walking the streets of Mos Eisley
Yes.
after Luke sells his land speeder to Yosley.
As a little kid, his face always freaked me out on the sand crawler.
Yeah. There was always something about the way the shape was, the shape of the face and stuff. I almost felt like it was based on some like discarded Darth Vader concept mask. Somebody had created, and George went, "No, let's paint him white and make him a droid."
He looks like he's almost laughing. It's a weird look.
Or slightly duck-billed. In the film, in A New Hope, when that droid is seen walking the streets during that sequence where Luke is selling his land speeder, it's played by Anthony Daniels. That's Anthony Daniels.
He still couldn't sit down.
He still couldn't sit. Yeah, right.
It's nice to see a blue astromech here. I know it's obviously not R2, but nice to see the blue astromech nonetheless.
Yeah. That's, again, Hasbro foaming at the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing all of these droids.
You're a sucker
here.
for astromech droids. I know that. You collect all the astromechs.
I love my astromechs. You know me. I do.
Boy, did you see that look they all give? They all look at it once. That's the look I got when I walked into a bar one time. Right there, like that. What's he doing here? These are Death Watch Mandos right here.
Are they?
Yeah, because it's the blue. It's the blue is the giveaway.
Yeah, like Paz Vizsla, or not Paz Vizsla, the other Vizsla.
Pre-Vizsla.
No, Paz for sure. Paz.
Oh, Paz.
Yeah. Pre is from the Clone Wars, and he is, of course, the architect of the Death Watch, really.
Yeah.
But in this era, they look more like those big, bulky kind of Mandalorians, like the one that's voiced by Jon Favreau, and he dueled Din Djarin in the Book of Boba Fett for the Darksaber, and what's his deal? He's just one of those children of the Mando, or whatever they're called.
Children of the Watch?
Remember? Children of the Watch.
Yeah.
Right, so obviously their ties to Death Watch are probably solid.
Yes.
Children of the Watch.
It was remember, it was the Death Watch that saved Din.
Right. When he was
So
young
his sect, or his denomination of the Mando faith, is definitely a branch off of the Death Watch. Look at that.
Looks
There's
like they're-
Paz Vizsla with his heavy
dive
gun.
bombing Navarro. Here they're in the city square of Navarro, where we earlier saw Grief Karga greeting Din, and that statue of IG-11 is gone.
Oh,
it's been destroyed. All you see is just the base of it with the stormtrooper helmet.
Right.
But you could see where it's missing. There's like rebar sticking up.
Right. Oh, man, that's sad. Oh, that's fun. Got a little Mando grapple action here.
Who's standing there? That wasn't Fennec Shand, was it? Or that was another Mandalorian?
That's another Mandalorian.
That's
They're taking a blaster to the back of this. Is this not a Nikto? I always get these guys confused. What are these guys right here?
Oh, that's a
Klatooinian?
Nikto.
Oh, that's a Nikto. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like he's seen better days.
Yeah.
I wonder if we will see Fennec Shand show up in this season of Mandalorian.
I always like seeing Fennec Shand.
Well, yeah, but I just don't see her fit in. A couple of Babu freaks.
Oh yeah, the freaks.
Hey.
Love it.
There's two of them. No, there are two of them.
Hey, you think we'll see Boba Fett show up in any of this? I mean, Mando crashed his party. Will Boba crash Mando? I would like to see it, actually. I like when they're together. I love, Boba didn't necessarily do it for me 100% on his own, but I do like him hanging with Mando. I do like him and Fennec and Mando together. Now all we need is Cara Dune.
It's weird. I love Boba Fett. I always have. And seeing him and Mando together in the season finale of Book of Boba Fett was great. But I still, as a fan, talking from the bottom of my heart, I preferred seeing Din Djarin and Cobb Vanth take on the Crate Dragon. Now, that was a duo I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
More than Boba and Mando. Makes you wonder, how much do we even need Boba Fett anymore? We have all these other Bobas.
Sacrilege.
Oh, don't let Daniel Logan know I said that, by the way.
Somewhere Daniel Logan just woke up out of
like Anakin waking up from the nightmare.
Right. Oh, here, I think they're back in that cave that you were talking about, going for the living waters, maybe coming out of the living waters. Oh, look at this dude. He means business. Got a creature of the week here. Look at that.
It looks very kind of caveman-y, land of the lost sort of vibes, I get. Does he have 4 eyes?
Looks like 4 eyes. Looks like a 4-eyed rancor.
He's got so, I mean, this is probably something we see in the very first episode of the season. We've been led to believe by some people that everything we see in this trailer is from the first 2 episodes. And we've been told that by, people who may or may not be in the know.
Yeah.
So
they're holding
and I
back.
believe it, based on past performance of the way the marketing for The Mandalorian rolls out. I would believe that. Now, based on the way Andor rolled out, where in the very first trailer, we were seeing stuff from the last episode of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's uncommon with Star Wars. And definitely with the Favreau verse.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Oh, Baby Yoda showing that creature of the week, who's boss.
Right, yeah.
There he is. He's doing the baby hand thing.
Who wears the loincloth around here? I'll show you. So Mandalorian Season 3 coming March 1st. The RFR after show will be that night, and then the Bad Batch after shows will shift to Thursday nights. And the weekly RFR will be put on ice for the month of March, unless, of course, there's some huge news that requires us to produce a special report. Other news of significant value will be covered on either of those two after shows if necessary.
Yeah. I got to say, I was coming into this trailer, Jim, we talked off air. I said, God, that was an underwhelming trailer. There wasn't much to it. There was so much more story that was revealed in some of those other sneak peeks that we got into season 3. But this was a blast. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot more than I gave, than I saw, honestly, with the initial screening there on Mando Night Football. So this was a lot of fun. I do think we got a little bit more, we got more Bo-Katan. We got maybe a better idea of what Mando's going to be up to in season 3, but lots of Easter eggs in this trailer. And I think it did what it was supposed to do, which is go to that sort of mainstream audience watching Monday Night Football and get them excited about Mando season 3. And nothing wrong with that, right?
Get your friends asking you.
Yeah.
How did Grogu come back? What's he doing there with me?
I thought he was with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, you gotta pay your penance, son, as a Star Wars fan, and watch that whole season of Book of Boba Fett to find out. That's the only way you'll learn.
It is the only way. It is the way.
As I say with a flourish.
Yes. Always. Well, the way here at Rebel Force Radio is to keep listening. If you want more Rebel Force Radio in your life, the best way to do it is through Patreon. Please become a Patreon supporter of us. If you go over to patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio or click on the Patreon banner at the Rebel Force Radio website, that's your gateway. That's your path. That is your way to more RFR, including weekly full show videos. So the podcast you're listening to right now, you can be watching in addition to listening to it. So check it out. There's multiple levels. Buck gets you in the door, and you're immediately listening to exclusive podcasts that you won't find anywhere else. And it is a great community of Star Wars fans that are, you hear a lot of them on the after shows. We always get the Patreon members to the head of the line. And that includes you if you're a Patreon member, if you call in to any of our after shows. And if you're in the chat, so many of those folks are Patreon members, and you can see that it's just a really fun group of Star Wars fans that like to hang out and talk the wars, and debate, but it's all fun. It's all friendly. You can also watch us on YouTube. So if you like Rebel Force Radio, and I know that a lot of folks that are listening to the podcast for the first time found us through YouTube and the after shows, which is fantastic. So we love having you here. But if you're not familiar with the YouTube channel, go over there. Please subscribe. Give some thumbs up. Comment on some of the videos. YouTube loves all that stuff, and it helps get the channel out there. Because we are the #1 Star Wars podcast, undisputed #1 Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. And we'd love to have those YouTube numbers up there as well. You can follow us on the socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's a great way to find out what's going on. We always post in advance when we're going to go live, if we're going to do a live show. There's a live show every week now. Through when does Mando season 3 wrap up? We'll be doing a live show every week.
We're trucking into the last week of March, and then April kicks off with what is certain to be big news dropping from London.
Oh, yeah.
And the big Star Wars convention happening out there, Star Wars Celebration London. Holy crap. I think maybe the whole future of Star Wars might be laid out in front of us again. Here we sort of got halfway through the future of Star Wars the last time it was laid out in front of us, and some things panned out and some things didn't. Well, it's time for us to get the refresher from KK and the gang, and that's going to happen in London. And really, I think the next few years of Star Wars is going to be set along on its path and made clear to us fans at that event. In London.
Speaking of the brass, I heard that Bob Iger has been a very reliable fixture at the Disney parks over the last several weeks. He's been in plain clothes, hanging out. He's been all over those parks. He's already made some changes. There's some they've been lowering some prices on some of the admissions to the parks and some of the attractions on the inside. So it seems like his priority, and we know that's the number one cash cow for the Disney Corporation is the parks. And that's where he's focusing his time. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Because you haven't really
he's
heard
at the
much.
parks seriously, he's at the parks all the time. I was at the park a couple weekends ago, and he cut in front of me at the Dole Whip line.
Oh, man.
I said, "Who the hell do you think you are, you entitled?" And he turned around and said, "Move aside, peon." And he got his Dole Whip. And
Who do you think you are, Bob Iger?
Yeah,
actually.
And by that time, his security force had me pinned to the ground. So, I mean, what am I going to do, Still got that Dole Whip, though.
That's all that matters.
About an hour and a half later, I
giant
was
turkey
able to
leg.
get it,
The website for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. And we love to have the support on Patreon, of course. We love to have the subscriptions on YouTube. But the best thing you can do to help us here at Rebel Force Radio is just spread the word. Keep listening. Tell your friends about us. If you got that Star Wars fan in the office or on the playground, wherever, let them know and tell them to
share our links.
Yes.
Spread the word. That's huge.
The word. So subscribe if you can. Leave us a review if you would. Just one rule, please, on the reviews.
Make them good.
And we'll be back next week with more Rebel Force Radio. Don't forget, Bad Batch After Show. It's so much fun. Watch the show. It's 22, 24 minutes. Watch the show on Wednesdays, and then join us for the after shows, 8 o'clock Eastern on YouTube. We have a blast every week. Even if it's not our favorite episode, we still have fun.
Right, because it's still fresh Star Wars being presented to us, and it triggers a lot of interesting conversation and analysis.
Yeah.
That wouldn't just happen naturally with us sitting around over a cup of coffee, Right. It's meat on the bone.
We talked for almost 80 minutes about a 1-24-second trailer. Imagine what we can do with a 22-minute episode of The Bad Batch. You have heard nothing yet.
Very true.
All right, check it out. So we'll see you next time. We'll see you next week for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
And I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.